Car fix back. Car fix back.
Car fix back. Car fix back.
Car fix back. Car fix back.
Hey, welcome everyone. We're back for another episode of First Canada Live. It's the new year. It's 2021. It's an arithmetic sequence right there, 2021. We're counting up. We're counting all the goodness of this season, and we're going to celebrate here with our first community in Canada and across the globe. This is a show where we talk about all the good stuff that happens in the first community, and we share robot stories, people stories, community initiatives, and all sorts of good stuff. And to help me share all the goodness that we got going today, we have a member of the First Canada Youth Council from First Team 5036, the Robo Devils, right here in Scarborough. It's Riddy. Hey, Riddy.
Hi, Karthik.
I am pumped to have you here. Well, first of all, so everyone to know, Riddy, this is your first time hosting the show, but you're going to be back a lot this year. You're doing 3 shows you're signed up for, so that's awesome.
Yep. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Karthik.
I'm excited to have you here as well, and we've got a lot to talk about. I could ask you about kickoff now. I'm going to hold off just a little bit, but how was your break? How was your holidays?
It was pretty good. I got to hang out with my sister who came back from university. I got to spend a lot of time with my family, which was really nice.
Yeah, I think, we all needed a little bit of time to reconnect and just kind of rest and get a break. Everyone's so busy these days between, work from home or work, having to go into the world and braving all that's going out there. All our students who are, dealing with remote learning right now. So you all deserve that break. And hopefully you can, unwind, get your mental health where it needs to be, and then, get ready for an FRC season that we're diving right into right now. What we're going to have today, we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and we got to showcase some of our FTC teams. Actually, FTC scrimmage, the second FTC scrimmage of the season is next week, so these teams are just getting ready for that. We're going to show some robot videos, so it's going to be some good robot content, which is going to be awesome. And of course, this Saturday was FRC Kickoff, and we have a panel of some of our best alumni, volunteers, and mentors to discuss all of that. So throughout the show, if you have any questions, please drop them into the Twitch chat. We'll do our best to answer them on the show. And remember that we're here to celebrate the excellence and positivity in our community, so bring that same energy in the chat when you're making your comments. But before we get to our news updates, a tradition that we started in the fall is the Youth Council has a little wellness moment every week on First Canada Live to help us kind of unwind and get in the right mindset for everything. So Riddy, how about you tell us what you're doing for your wellness moment today?
So today I thought I would love share a new hobby that I took up during quarantine, and that hobby was origami, and I learned how to make a lot of things. And so today I would love to show everyone how to make tadpoles out of just a piece of paper.
Okay,
And so
I'm ready for this. I got my piece of paper here. I made it in advance. So what kind of paper do they need for this, Riddy?
they just need a square piece. So you can go with any color. I chose to go with green. And so first you're going to take this corner and this corner, so opposite from each other, and just going to fold them and make them meet.
Okay, so we got a triangle now.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you're going to open it up and do it to the other corners that didn't meet. So when you open it up,
this is like nerve-wracking. Oh, that's not a good fold. Okay, I'll get it.
So when you open it up, there should be just diagonal lines. So now you're going to put it back into that little triangle on one of the lines, and you're going to pinch right in the middle. So notice how there's a fold, just pinch it on one side. And then you're going to take this part, the fold that you're not pinching on, and you're going to just push that downwards and make it meet in the middle of these two folds. Kind of confusing, but so it just looks like that. You're pushing it into it. And then just secure these two folds here. You got it, Karthik?
Probably not, but it's okay. You keep going, Riddy. Don't slow down on my account.
And so now that's going to be the face of our tadpole. And now you have a little tail. So I like to kind of fold the tail upwards to give it that moving effect. And you're basically done, your little tadpole.
I have a hat ready. I missed something along the way. That's okay. Your tadpole looks amazing.
And so now we're not done. Our tadpole needs a face. So you can take a marker and you can give your tadpole some features. I'm going to go with one eye, just because I like tadpoles with one eyes. And I gave him a little eyebrow. And there you have it. There's your tadpole.
Okay, well,
And,
I'll
I
tell you,
love doing.
first of all, I need some more other lessons for you. Once we get back to in-person events, Brady, we're sitting down and we're doing origami. Okay, you can volunteer. We'll go to the volunteer lounge, or maybe at the not behind the scores table. I don't like to create a mess. Their scores table to stay clean. But we're gonna do some origami. That was really great, and this is a fun thing. I know as a kid, I always loved folding paper. I remember as Reddy, you go to school in Scarborough. I lived in Scarborough almost my whole life, and I remember taking the TTC to school every day. You get a transfer on the bus, and I would always fold my transfer into something. That was my way of my entertainment getting to school, doing origami. Well, not really origami, it's like folding stuff or whatever. So
I'm so glad that I could share this wellness moment with everyone. And you can do so much with origami. You can make a dog or a fox. So the possibilities are endless. But thank you for having me and letting me share this wellness.
Thank you
moment.
for sharing with us, Brady. That's absolutely great. But now let's move into the news updates. And I think the news, it all centered around one thing today, and it's a big one. FRC Kickoff was this Saturday. We learned what's going on for this FRC season. We learned a lot about the at-home challenges, and we're going to be diving deep into all of that with our panel discussion in just a couple minutes. But before we get to that, I just want to remind all the FRC teams out there that registration is still open. So if you liked what you saw at kickoff and you liked what you see today, and you're getting excited about the game design challenge and the innovation challenge and the infinite recharge at home challenges, you can still sign up. If you're here in Ontario, what you need to do is contact a First Canada staff member like John Hobbins or Paul Keenan, let them know you want to register, and they'll work to get you all signed up. And remember, back in the fall on First Canada Live, we told everyone about these amazing price reductions thanks to the First Canada sponsors to help teams compete this year. Those are still available right now. So if you want to get in for those super, super low prices, come on in and join the fun. It's going to be a great season. The next thing we want to talk about is we have a new Slack group in Ontario for FRC and FTC teams. It's the Ontario First Team Support Slack. If you were interested in joining, there's invites have been sent out in the email blasts to the FRC teams and the FTC teams as of late. So talk to your mentors, or if you're a mentor, talk to your lead mentor to make sure you click on that invite. But if you go into that Slack group, it's really amazing because there's sub channels to discuss all the new challenges, robot troubleshooting, mentors looking for advice, figuring out how to run their teams. Because right now, there's all sorts of restrictions. We moved into a new stage of lockdown here in Ontario. So there's restrictions going on, and you might not be sure of what to do next, but lots of other mentors are feeling the same way. So you can connect with them, get advice, and share best practices. We do a lot of that on First Canada Live, but you can do this like rapidly, whatever. Really, have you used Slack before? Yes, I know you have. You're in the Youth Council Slack with me.
Yeah, I have used Slack before. It's a great way of communicating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really helps overcome some of the obstacles that you can't meet in person. So we want to check that one out. The other piece of news that we want to discuss, and this one's important, because if we were at FRC events right now, we'd be seeing that same video that shows every time talking about first scholarships and apply, apply, apply. Well, First Canada has 3 scholarships that have deadlines that are coming up soon. The Don Bosian Leadership and Innovation Scholarship deadline is January 15th. That's Friday. That's like as soon as it can come. The First Canada Women in STEM Scholarship, January 31st is the deadline. And the Build a Dream Skilled Trades Scholarship, February 15th. So all these deadlines are coming up. So if you're a grade 12 student who loves FIRST and has done lots of cool things, you should really apply for these scholarships. These are great opportunities. We've had many of these scholarship award winners on our show before. We had Nick Rampertab on, Angela Tolley, Sarah Arnold, and you can go back on YouTube to get some insights on them for how to apply. But this is big money, and you want to take your shot. And the really cool thing is, First Canada and the sponsors for these scholarships have come up with an application process that's not super, super intense. It's not, you don't have to do like a 10-page thing. It's like 500-word essays that lots of you are already doing for your university applications. So get in on this stuff right now. The money is out there, and it's a great thing. And also, even if you don't win one of these scholarships, you can reuse that application for another purpose at some point. So, Rita, you're only in grade 11, right?
Yep.
So you're a little bit away from the scholarship process. But have you thought about these scholarships and kind of like what you want to do in the future for all of this, or?
Not really. I haven't really thought about the application process yet.
Well, that's why we're telling everyone now, because if you are just in grade 11, start learning about this stuff, start seeing what's out there, making lists on what you want to apply for, because these deadlines will sneak up with you, because we know how busy everyone is with school. So, if you're in grade 11, start thinking about this stuff now. If you're in grade 12, let's dive right in. All right. It's almost time to get started with our rest of our show today. That was the news updates. But before we do that, let's take a look at a word from one of our First Canada sponsors. Hey everyone, we're back, and this is going to be some good stuff that's going on here. Rudy, where are you? I lost you.
I'm right here.
Okay, I didn't know if like you and the tadpole went somewhere. We got to keep what's going on. It's time to discuss FRC Kickoff, and to do that, we got when this show was coming up, it's like, okay, we're going to talk about kickoffs. Let's bring in some of like the most exciting and coolest mentors that we've got who just are super into FRC. So I'd like to introduce first, he's a First Canada alum of Team 188 Woburn Robotics, former mentor for Team 1241 Theory 6, and current lead mentor for Team 610 Crescent Robotics. Used to be at FTA, but now has come to the fun side. He's a First Canada game announcer. It's my boy, Parth Patel. What up, buddy?
Hey man, not much. I'm just hanging in there, with everything that's going on. Nice to be on again. Hi, Riddhi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks for coming on, Parth. It's always fun to have you on the show. Always fun when it's the Karthik and Parth show, as we do. But next up, so last time there was a Waterloo event, you and I were the MC and game announcer for that one. And
this is true.
We had no backup, so we did every single match, which was because Aveen.
Yeah. He didn't show up.
Yeah, we're calling you out, Aveen. Calling you out right now. But our lead queuer for that event, who was the lead queuer all across Ontario, and she's another First Canada alum, mentor for Team 3683 Team Dave. Some people know her as Miss M, but we know her as Barbara. Hey, Barbara.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for being on the show. I know, you are an avid reader. You've bought 50 books over the past year. So we might have to talk about some of those at some point, but we're here to talk about kickoffs. But thank you for coming on the show. It's been a while.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been a couple months.
Yeah,
definitely.
So glad you're here. And finally, he's back once again, First Canada alum, mentor for Team 1241 Theory 6, First Canada FTA and volunteer coordinator, and rocking that sultry beard. What a look. It's Kaushal Kapasi. What up, buddy?
Hey, Karthik. Hey,
All
everyone.
right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Kaushal. Every time you're on the show, because Kaushal has a lot of interests. He's great at robots. He's great at organizing. He does amazing, cool stuff for TD. But you also love food, hashtag fat life. So what was the best thing you ate over the Christmas break?
That's tough. Gelato. So there's this place near Dundas and Dufferin called Death in Venice. Honestly, they have some of the best gelato I've found in Toronto.
What flavor is your go-to there?
These guys are great. They keep coming out with new flavors every couple of weeks, so they mix it up. My favorite so far has been a elderberry cheesecake gelato.
Oh, fancy!
I need a refill on my gelato, Kaushal. So next time you're there, I've got my next order ready for you.
Do you do deliveries to Waterloo? Because that'd be really nice.
Once the lockdown ends, it can be arranged.
Forget Uber Eats. Kaushal Eats. Hook us up with that app. Just that's your students' culminating project this year, making a Kaushal Eats.
Making a Kaushal Eats app. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, so enough on food. FRC Kickoff. This is what we're here to talk about. a lot dropped on the weekend, so I just want to kind of go around and maybe Rudy, we'll start with you. Like, what was your overall impression of kickoff?
Thought it was different from a lot of the other seasons that I've participated in, but I think it's going to be great this year because I feel like even though it's different, I think teams can definitely come through and basically I think the thing that I'm excited for is just seeing how teams can come together and pull it off virtually. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's different is a word we're going to be saying a lot today. And I think we need to remember that different doesn't, because some people, it depends on how you look at things, and some people are pessimists, some people are optimists. Some people, when they hear different, is like, oh, different. Oh, but like different can be good. And so we miss in-person robot events. We want to be at Waterloo screaming water, 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 loo, loo, loo. We want that energy. We want that hype. But this season, it's going to be different, but we're going to make the best of it. So a lot of cool stuff's going to happen. Barbara, what did you think of kickoff?
It was definitely different. What I really enjoyed is what Team Dave did is we got together on Discord and we live streamed it. So I really liked seeing a lot of the kids' reactions, some of them for the first time watching kickoff, just like seeing their reactions to everything and just having their comments in the background. But I also like that they focused a lot on the at-home challenges and they kind of briefly touched on the changes to the game because they know that's not what the main focus is right now because we don't know if we can do that. But it was the focus on the actual like challenges and also bringing in alumni. I really enjoyed that one actually as well.
Yeah, I think it was cool. So at the Team Dave, live stream kickoff, Team Dave's known for a lot of things, amazing robots, but also like you got some good memes. So what was the best meme that was dropped from Team Dave?
There's a lot of talks about water game.
Okay. Right,
it's the water game memes. That's what we had. We didn't have one specific one from this one, thankfully, but we just talked a lot about water games and we had to introduce what water game is to the newbies, which was interesting.
Nice. I hope they didn't drown in all of that. Okay, Parth, kickoff. What did you think, man?
I mean, it kind of echoing the disappointment of, the in-person events, but also I think for me as somebody, I'm a lot of people maybe don't know, I'm very programmer sided when it comes to the robotics world. And so for me, the idea of autonomous challenges is really cool. I think it's something that's just been lacking in FRC. Like, I mean, there have been some great autonomous modes by specific teams over the years. But we just like, you and I joke about it all the time, Karthik, but like not even jokingly, like we honestly mean it. Like there are kids in FLL that do far more amazing things autonomously than what students achieve in FRC. So I think there's potential for more teams to get exposure. And, I really want to see if there's any correlation in future years, if teams just start having better autonomous modes, having practice this year with those autonomous challenges.
I think the autonomous challenges are great. We're going to dive into them in just a couple of minutes. So we'll go into the nitty gritty of all that. But you're right. If you think about like epic FRC moments, and you think about like going back to 2008, when 1114 finally hit the 7-line 2-wall auto, or when 254 finally hit the 4-cube auto, or when 1986 was the first team to get the RP in auto, shooting in auto, like those crazy sorts of things. But that was just 15 seconds. Now teams, and think about the pathing. Like if you remember, I'm going to go way back to 2003, Team 111 Wild Stang. And I know Mr. Brenner's watching, so he'll remember this robot. But they were the first to do like the full positioning system with their robot, where they picked the waypoints beforehand and would knock all the stacks down and then get up to the top of the ramp. And those classic auto modes, like, this is what this is about. The fastest way to do these pads. And I'm so excited to talk about that. But Barbara, on the water game, you might have seen me laugh earlier because I was just looking at the chat, and after someone typed water game, someone just types 188 moat, and I just you could design a game with a real moat with the water. Yeah.
That meme hurts too much for more reasons than one.
It's amazing. Kasha, what did you think of kickoff, buddy?
I'm actually excited. So on one hand, I'm encouraged by the fact that FIRST is agreeing that, hey, this is a big deal. We're going to ask everyone, stay home, stay safe, and it's the right call. And it's encouraging to see FIRST bring all their programs together in a way, because this year I felt Kickoff highlighted that all the programs are in this together. Everyone's working from home or within their bubbles and staying safe and being awesome, because I've helped out with some FLL, some FTC, and it's really cool to see what everyone's up to. And I can't wait for FRC to be the same.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. you know, we talk about hindsight a lot, and I think it's easy to be critical of decisions that are made in hindsight, but I think we have to give a lot of credit to First for the decision. Someone's got background noise going there. Someone wants to make sure that get that killed, but they made a decision in the spring to reuse Infinite Recharge game for this season. And a lot of people were critical of that, but it makes so much sense seeing what, and that took some real foresight to understand where we were going to be in the world right now. Because imagine how weird it would feel right now if there was a new game released, but a lot of teams couldn't build a robot for it. Imagine that kind of disappointment to it. So I really want to give them a lot of credit for that, because I've been doing a lot of learning about leadership, and like effective leadership sometimes means taking risks and making bold decisions. But wow, did they really come through with that one for the benefit of our community? And so being able to pivot to these challenges is great. But I think at this point right now, I think we can pivot our discussion into the challenges. So let's talk Infinite Recharge at Home Judged Awards. That's the first set of the challenges. So we're going to bring this up on screen right now. So this is the first thing that's happening there. There are traditional judged awards that every team can compete with because it's using your existing robot. Maybe you're building a new robot, but I don't really think that's a thing that's happening here in Ontario or Canada this year, but you can use your existing robot. And here are the awards that you're interviewing for. Autonomous Award, Excellence in Engineering, Industrial Design, Quality Award, Rookie Game Changer. These are all using the traditional FRC criteria. So look at the next slide. So here's what you have to do to be eligible for these. And it's really not too much. So the deliverables, I always like to break things down to deliverables. Like, what do we need to do? Also, just a reminder, everyone, all this information is in the at-home challenges manual. Please make sure you read this. We're just giving you a summary here today, and we're going to have some discussion, but you need to read the manual for the exact details. So you need to submit 1 to 3 robot images. It can be CAD, it can be drawings, whatever you have. I think it makes a lot of sense to submit a picture and a CAD, like side by side. I think that's always a cool thing. If you're interested in the Autonomous Award, you need a video of your autonomous routine. And then you can make a robot flyer, which kind of, like if you think of some of the posters that teams have in their pit, you can just do something like that. It's almost like you're trying to simulate what happens in the pit interviews with judging. So let's take a look at the next slide. And that's where the interview comes into effect. Normally the judges come to your pit, they come to chat with you, but this time around, you're going to have to do a presentation via some sort of video conference. It's going to be a 7-minute presentation, 5 minutes a question. Format sounds familiar because all our Chairman's Award teams know that format exactly. And this is where you're going to talk about what your robot was designed to do, your design process, which is important for so many of the awards, and maybe choose one specific feature and how it works. You can screen share like we're doing with these slides right here, and you can play some videos. So that's the judged awards. And now I kind of want to talk, and Barbara, I know with Team Dave, you work a lot on awards. So, and especially like you're a chairman's that's like your specialty. So
Yep.
How would you approach these robot focused awards now in like a formal interview and presentation?
My biggest approach for it would be going with those kids that are first off confident and talk about the robot, but also having them study it, take a look at each specific part, and just having them like have their specialty in which specific area of the robot they know, and then using what we have. So going back on those footages that you took from practice with the robot and you're practicing driving it, going back over stuff that you had previously and just using that to bring back that knowledge and just having them focus in and learn one specific part and then just know everything like that. Because looking at chairman's, like they've practiced it for so long, they know this. So it's just making sure each student who is involved has the area of expertise, and then they can specifically talk about that one part. So like the autonomous modes, how the robot can climb, how the robot shoots, just so that you get that wide range of knowledge, and then everyone is included as well in the presentation, which is really important as well.
Paschal, what are you thinking about this? Like, how would you approach this as a mentor?
In my experience, it is a little challenging because a lot of times in the pits when the judges come, you want to show them on your robot itself. Having maybe a webcam or a Steadicam where you can walk the judge around your robot or zoom in to show them a specific item, I think that would be a really helpful touch for some teams.
That's a really cool idea. For by the time when these interviews start happening, which we're going to talk a little bit about deadlines for all the awards. Your deadlines are March 4th to opt in. And when we get to the skills challenge, we'll talk about that specific deadline. But March 4th is when you have to opt in by. So interviews will be happening after that. Hopefully teams might be able to get access to the robot for the interview. But if not, showing videos and stuff with the Steadicam idea, that's really, really cool. And if you think about it, like when you're doing your interviews with the judges in the pits, your robot's right there. So trying to simulate some of that stuff. Parts, you come from a team that has won a lot of technical awards. Well, actually, all three, everyone here has won a lot of technical awards.
Yeah, I was going to say, everybody here has won technical awards. So.
But I know, like, it's often at the event, it's kind of like, oh, 610's there. We know where the quality award's going because your robots kind of exemplify that. So, like, what tricks and tips do you have for talking to the judges for this stuff that you've seen your students do such a good job of?
Well, I mean, I think we can all agree, like having, Barbara already mentioned it, but having students that really know what they're talking about. So, there's a reason why specific students, present the Chairman's Award, because these are students that are always on the ground with some of those outreach initiatives and really know the team's messaging. And similarly, you've got students, if you're really vying for that quality award, I mean, you definitely want a student who's been a part of the CADing, design, and manufacturing process. So, we have our students kind of involved in the process all the way from ideation all the way down to manufacturing and final products. So, lots of students know what they're talking about, and then it's just a matter of actually coaching them through it. It's the way we approach it anyway on 610 is we actually are coach our kids to sell the robot because, there's that element of like, as a student, you've built something and you're proud of it, but you don't necessarily want to, like, you don't feel like you're doing a good job of selling it because you don't want to oversell it because you feel like it's not that amazing. And so you kind of undersell what you've achieved. And so there's that balance of like making sure you're saying everything you've actually accomplished that was difficult, but without going over the top and, I guess embellishing on what you've actually accomplished.
Right. You want to be bold and be confident, but we don't embellish, we don't exaggerate at first. We don't need to do that because all our teams are doing cool stuff. So it's like, it's about being real, like we don't need to do that. And that's just like, that's a life that you're working on scholarship applications, like we talked about, working on your resume, none of that embellishing stuff. Who you are is good enough. You are awesome.
Exactly. I actually have a question for you, Karthik, and the rest of the panelists too. One of the issues that, and I'll speak on my team, we run into every year, and I'm proposing that this is actually a good change. And I think it should carry forward even with in-person events with regards to virtual judging for awards. And the reason I say that is because most of the students that end up having that discussion with the judges for 610 often end up on the drive team or on the strategy team or on roles that we're notorious for telling judges to come back when a specific student is in the pit. And that student is almost never in the pit because if they're on the drive team, they're not even allowed in the pit. I think this is really interesting because I think it's going to give a lot of teams an opportunity to practice some of that. Because there are a lot of teams that, maybe don't win as many awards as they'd like to. So I don't know. I'm just putting the question out there. Like, what do you guys think about carrying this forward as a way to get more students to actually get that talk going with judges?
Reedy, what do you think?
I think that's a great way for students to get more involved with their robots because I know that sometimes it's really hard for scouts to get inside of the pits and to see what's going on. So I think it's going to give scouts the opportunity to present their robot and to learn more about how their robot works and basically can have a connection with their with the drive team and the build team and just overall present the robot that they created.
Yeah, I think this is similar to what's done in FLL and FTC, where they have scheduled judges interviews for the robot. And I think that, I like the current system. I think it works. It has worked. But I think there's a lot to learn from FLL and FTC. And as I spend more time in those programs, I kind of see the cool things that they're doing there. And the scheduled interview, one, it takes off the stress. Two, it helps with the scheduling. And three, having a planned presentation. That's like it's such an important skill. And sometimes it's almost like we're only giving that to the chairman's presenters, and it might be nice to put that skill forth to the rest of the team. Barbara, I'd love to hear what you think.
I personally think that having the planned is great. So what Team Dave does is we have a different student at each competition who is designated to talk to the judges. So we cycle through as many students as possible, but that student can't sit there forever. Like we do use them for things like scouting, so they go back and forth. So having that schedule definitely takes away from it. Plus it gives some kids to shine, like the chance to shine, because they might not be willing to stay in the pits forever, but they might be willing to practice and present to judges later on and give that opportunity to them. Plus, it's great to work with these kids because in the moment, you can forget something easily. You could forget to mention a certain part of your robot, and then later on, you're like, dang it, I wish I had said this to the judges. Whereas when you have practice presentation, you have that list of things you need to hit, and you know ahead of time what you want to say, and there's less of a chance of missing something and having that miscommunication as well.
Totally. Okay. Before we move on to the skills challenges, Riddy, I think you had a question for our panel.
I'm not sure if we had an award for any kinds of posters in the past, but I just had a question for the mentors. Do you guys have any tips for what to design an effective poster, and like how can teams catch the eye of their judges?
So what we have done in the past is we use a lot of visuals. So using that color, we use a variety of greens, just something that's eye-catching to draw the eye, and then keeping it as basic as possible. So you don't want to have run-on explanations because you lose track. Think of it as if you're creating a slide for a presentation. It's just super simple, to the point, what you think is the most important information. And then when you're talking to the judges, you explain further along that.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, Tosh,
One inspiration I like to take is looking at movie posters, because a lot of times movie posters, they sort of punch, they like highlight, okay, this is the coolest thing, and this is what I want to talk about. I like to take sort of that concept and whatever text you have on your poster, try to use a large font size. Think of it some kind of like, someone's walking by your pit. You want them to be able to read the words very easily. That's what I think is the easiest way to get someone's attention, with a nice graphic and with just clear, short sentences and big bold letters.
I think that's a really, really good point to remember, because at least, sometimes you have posters in your pit where you like hand some of them out and, and people can take it away and read it. This is going to be, the judges it has to be readable. So making that, but Kaja, you said movie posters. One thing I think back to, I know 11-14 in 2012, the robot was named after Michael Jordan. It was called Simbot Jordan, and the robot poster that year was kind of designed to be like a Nike ad, like white background, picture of the robot, that exploded text with the windows, kind of like you'd see like with describing like the new pair of Jordans or whatever. So theming it around your identity, I think, is really important to kind of make it stand out. So it's not just kind of the standard sort of thing. I think also look to advertising to see what's inspired you. Like I know, even though I don't own any of their products, like I think Apple is like just the master of the product reveal. And when you go to the Apple website, and you see like the new iPhone and how they kind of walk through that, I think there's something to be said about that. So like, see what products you're really interested in, which have caught your eye, and to see what you can do with that. We could talk a lot more about Judged Awards, but there's a lot of stuff to get to. So I do want to move on. So now let's talk about the Infinite Recharge at Home skills challenges, the skills competition. So here's what you need. Infinite Recharge robot. You all have one. Most our rookies don't. So I shouldn't say you all have one, but the rookies don't, and that's aside right now. But you have last year's robot is totally fine. You do not need to build a new robot for this. Understanding that some teams in parts of the world where they are allowed to meet may build robots optimized for this, but the skills challenges are pretty analogous to the current game, so you can get away with using your current robot. You do need 15 to 30 feet of open space. That's going to be a challenge. We know, but can you, if we get back into schools, can you move some desks aside? Can you use the gymnasium? Because remember, there's not a carpet requirement this year, so it can be on any surface. Is the weather good enough to try this outside? I hate the cold. I don't know, but be creative here. You need to have 3 power cells. The good thing is your kit of parts this year came with 3 power cells, so that's a nice bonus for teams who only had 1 or whose power cells all got chewed up, like some of the ones we saw last year. Field elements, you need them for shooting challenges, sort of, because you're supposed to shoot into a goal, but they give you an option where you can shoot at a wall and just put a tape outline of the goal. And we can talk about the strategies there, because there's some advantages to be gained. You do need to have a camera to record your challenge runs somehow, because those have to be submitted. And submission portal for this closes on April 8th. So let's quickly, I'm just going to walk us through all the challenges and then we'll talk about it. So number one, the Galactic Search Challenge. I love this one. Autonomously locate and collect power cells as fast as possible on one of two paths. So the robot's got a start zone. There's an end zone. You flip a coin before the challenge. It tells you red or blue. And then you have to take one of these paths to collect all three balls. So you're going to intake them somehow, to possess them, and get to the end. And it's all autonomous. So you got your robot, you hit the button, and then it's got to go do this path as quickly as possible. The scoring for this is the sum of your two runs. So it's about doing it as fast as possible, but you have to collect all three power cells. So you must control them, and your bumpers have to break the plane at the end. Paths are designed by random coin toss. So that's the Galactic Search Engine. Pick up three power cells as quickly as possible and zoom the path. Next one, the Auto Nav Challenge. This is, for everyone there who loves, pathing and vectors and all the good stuff. This is your chance. This is the way to autonomously drive through three routes as fast as possible. And so you see some of the figures that we have there. There's like a figure 8, and there's almost like a little ballet going on, and there's one where you have to like bounce and touch like objects and then come back. And so you don't have to follow like the exact paths there, but you do have to get around the various waypoints as such. So you're going to have to find the fastest way to do it. This could settle the debate for once and for all on what's a more efficient drivetrain, swerve or tank, because will swerve drives have an advantage here? Maybe. I don't know if you can control them. It's but I also, some of the best autonomous routines that I've ever seen, going back 2008, 2014 with 254 and 1114, those were tank drives, and they hit those paths perfectly with turning. Like 2056 in 2014, not 2014, 2018, couldn't even score backwards, and they were still able to do things faster than everyone by making full turns. So if you can do this with a tank drive robot, don't believe that you can't, but it's cool. This is like pure programming right now. So let's go to the next slide. Scoring the sum of your 3 times. There are penalties to this one if you contact a non-starred marker. So those little dots that are up there, if you contact one of those, 5-second penalty. You have to self-store this. So gracious professionalism really matters. Hey, everyone out there, we love you. We trust you. Let's continue that. Let's be gracious professional with submitting scores. No funny stuff here, anyone. Like, that's just not what we do in FIRST. So let's just, anyone who's like already thinking about, oh, how can we loosen the rules to get around that stuff? Stop. Yes, stop. Be legit here, because no one wants to deal with that stuff. Okay, next challenge, the Hyperdrive Challenge. This is similar, and I mean, this is like a 610 challenge, because it's like humans drive predetermined routes through 4 different paths as fast as possible. And like, when I think back to the 2017 season, I think back to the fastest cycling robot in the world. I think back to 610 just blazing down the field, cutting these amazing paths around the back of the, what was it called? Help me, someone.
The airship?
Airship, that's right. Yeah. So, but now's your chance. All these robot drivers out there, you want to claim to be the best. I mean, I think we have a bunch of alumni out there who are probably like, why wasn't this a thing when I was there? Like, can you imagine Kajivin seeing this right now?
He would be all over it. He would, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to think about. But it's the similar paths that we showed before for the autonomous navigation challenge, except human drivers are doing it. So how fast can you do it? And I mean, are you going to be faster than the autonomous versions? Is another thing to wonder about. Honestly, I think the best teams in the world are going to be faster autonomously. So that's really interesting. Next challenge, the Interstellar Accuracy Challenge. You got 5 minutes for this one, so speed doesn't matter. 5 minutes, you take 15 shots into the goal and score as many points as possible, bottom, outer, or inner ports. So next slide. Standard infinite recharge scoring. You can only attempt 15 shots. 15 shots in 5 minutes. That's like 20 seconds per shot. You've got enough time here. This is an accuracy challenge. Like, when you think about the NBA 3-point contest, like they're rushing at the end. Steph is trying to get those last second shots off, but you have time here. You got to take 3 shots from each zone. So like close, medium, far. And then 3 shots could be from any other zone. Max 3 preloads, no more than 2 human players to reload. And I want to specifically come back to the power port here because you can shoot into a goal or you can shoot at a tape wall. I want to talk about the strategies of this. Next challenge. Power port challenge. This is a speed one. Score as many power cells into the bottom, outer, or inner ports in 60 seconds. This is a lot like the Recharge Your Bot challenge that our teams know about already, that a lot of teams of ours did. I got 2056 won the Recharge Your Bot challenge, this one, right? Seems like something they would do. Seems like something that they would do.
Sounds
60
about right.
seconds, score as many balls as you can, except you can only use 3 power cells. That's it. So you've got to find a way to cycle them in. Only 2 human players for reloading. They recommend that you use loading bays or mock-ups for safety, but score lots of points. High goals, medium, low goals. Next slide. So overall score. I don't want to dive too deep into this because it's a little bit complicated. But the important thing to remember, teams are ranked within their group based on their best 3 challenges. So you only have to do 3 of these. You don't have to do all 5. So if there, if you can't find somewhere in your school where you can shoot, you can still do the 3 land-based ones. And you're going to be assigned to groups randomly from all across FRC. That's cool. You could be competing, against a team from California, a team from Australia, a team from Turkey, a team from India. India #1, right, Parth? Like we got that going. Exactly. So you can. That's really exciting. You're competing across the globe, which is super, super cool. Do I have any more slides on this before we get to the next challenge? I lost count. I don't. See, that's called Sarah's the best producer ever. So good. Okay, that was a lot. Infinite recharge at home skills. I want to talk to you first because you're a computer science teacher. So what do you think of all this?
I mean, we mentioned earlier, you touched on it. The autonomous challenges are really fascinating. I think, 15 seconds of autonomous has always been, at the highest levels in FRC has always been a spectacular show, right? I mean, I go back to 2018 and 254 with their 4, possibly 5 cube autonomous routines, like just absolutely ridiculous stuff that we've seen, and even some of our local talent, like, a lot of people forget, but like the Cybercabs have always, they've always had these amazing autonomous routines. And I think back to 2016 and they're an Einstein team specifically because of their Sallyport autonomous. So, just like I look back at some of these autonomous modes and now to think that, teams can really practice that. And to me, it's not just about, I mentioned this earlier, it's not just about the like winning the autonomous award or the challenge, but having teams actually with the ability to practice some of this stuff with dedicated time. What's the one thing that hurts autonomous routines every year? Time, right? Oh, we'll just add the code later. Let's finish this, do the practice first, do this first, program later. And then there's never later, right? So I think this is amazing.
So you're saying practice is important for this?
I think practice isn't important for the autonomous challenge.
Are you saying that Alan Iverson's just not going to be down with this?
But Alan Iverson didn't go to practice.
Are we talking about practice? Not even a game, man. Practice?
Practice.
I couldn't resist.
You have to. You have to.
You have to. Shout out to AI. Hey, AI. Stop shooting, dude. Stop shooting, dude. Just stop shooting. That's all I've got to say. There's a lot going on with these challenges. So, and this is for everyone, but I keep coming to you because you are a programmer or whatever. For these paths, what's the key to success on creating a path that your robot goes through the path? Does anyone want to throw some ideas out there?
I mean, I'll go first. I think, walk before you can run kind of thing, right? Like, don't sit down and go, okay, team XYZ did this amazing custom library with all these custom features that does all this complicated math that you don't understand. That's not step 1. That's like I'm going to win the award. That's never going to be your step 1. Step 1 is, can you even like hard code a path for your robot to follow, even if it's a straight line path? And how do you optimize the parameters in which your robot's going to perform and achieve that path consistently? And consistency is going to be the key, because, are you really going to sit there and run your robot 150,000 times and record it that one time it works? First try, right?
I think Parth, you hit it, but even the first step is like break this thing down into steps. And if your first step is to get from waypoint A1 to waypoint B3, I don't think that's the actual name, but do that. Make sure you get that. Now from A1 to B3 to B5, okay, do that connection. But then you're like, oh, can we smooth that out a bit? Now, can we smooth it out? And it's kind of like, they say that every curve is composed of straight lines. And that, I mean, they say that. Newton says that. And, you kind of go from there. But start off with your straight lines and then keep adding more to them. And also, use the tools that are out there. WPILib has a lot of good stuff. Our friends at Cross the Road Electronics, if you're using that ecosystem, has a lot of good stuff out there. Take a look at old code. 1114 publishes all their old code. So if you want to look at their sim library of positioning systems, it's all there for you. For everyone, not directly on the code, but like, we understand that the world is crazy right now, and access to robots is difficult. Access to space is difficult. Does anyone have any ideas on, like, if you had access to your robot and right now, how you would set this up safely within your schools? In terms of distancing, what can we do?
So I'll speak to kind of the environment at Crescent, and we're unique in that, being an independent school, we were in person for like fully in person in the fall of this year, or of 2020 rather. And obviously we're closed now, but with the possibility of going back to in-person learning, we may be in a position where we can actually set up our full field. I don't know that off the top of my head by any means. So if you're watching, that's not a promise. That's just a speculation. But it's one of the things that we're doing is we're cohorting our kids by grade. And so you're with that class. So if you have chemistry, you're with that class of students all day. And so we're not exposing students any further if we take a subset of those students from that class and bring them down to the field house and they were to play with the robot. And so we're within our own safety protocols, finding ways where we can actually isolate groups of robotic students, or even, one of the things that we're going to consider possibly is, even if a student maybe isn't on the team and wants to learn, is there a possibility for them to do that if they're part of the cohort? So that works for us just based on how we're doing it. But I'm sure if you guys speak to the administration of your schools and your programs, you can probably find ways of finding protocols that work.
And what I want to say to everyone is that the number one priority is safety here. And the number one priority is not just your safety, which is obviously important, but our community safety. And we all have to take steps to protect each other right now. And if doing things physically in person, it's too much, that's okay, because there are purely virtual challenges that you can still do. And you can still be involved with FRC. Like, we want you to do stuff. We want you to be super excited for all this stuff. But remember, safety is the priority. And we're going to talk about those next challenges in just 1 second. But one last thing to talk about the skills challenges. The last due date for the skills challenge, for the other ones, it's March 4th, April 8th. So there's some time here. So you could set up your season if you think of your timeline. Like, we're going to work on virtual stuff right now because that's the way things are going to be. But maybe by March, maybe things are different. And then you can dive into the skills challenges. Because, right now, there's teams who start their autonomous mode like Umber when pits open, and they get something done. We know. So, having this amount of time it's doable. So you can make things work completely in this way. So don't push too hard here, because there's cool virtual challenges. We're going to talk about them next. So game design challenge.
One thing, Karthik,
yes,
before you change.
Yes.
So one thing I noticed when it came to the skill challenge deadline is it is paused between the time from which you can put in those virtual for a couple of days. So if you are doing it early and you see that it's closed at the beginning of March, don't worry, it will reopen, but it is paused for that little bit of time. So just keep note on that as well.
Great point, Barbara. And also, if you are doing the skills challenge portion of it, you do have to opt in for the judging portion too, and you have to submit the robot photos and that stuff as well. So just a good reminder there. And also, read the manual, folks. Like, if there was a new game right now, I'd just be beating it into people. But read the manual, like Aaron Koshelski, read the manual, But so it's just like let's go do this. Okay, game design challenge. This is really fun stuff here. So here's what you need to do. Design and pitch a fully developed FRC robotics competition game. Design a game. That's it. It's more complicated than that, I know, but design a game. The top 20 teams in the world get to move on to pitch their game to the FRC Game Design Committee. Like, that's Frank Merrick, and like Alex Harade and all these like really cool, smart people, Danny Diaz, Fiona Hanlon, and Kelly Carlson, like just like super, super smart people who design games, and they're going to evaluate your game. So that's like a cool, amazing opportunity. The deliverables, and it probably sounds scary because when you see an FRC game, like think of their deliverables. A full field built, a fully 120-page manual, an animation. Your deliverables aren't that scary. You need to name the game. You need to have an image of what your field is going to look like. 500-word game overview, 300 words on notable elements, 300 words on expected robot actions, 300 words on how you describe what you've used, the game design element. That is very, very doable if you have a cool game. So just remember that. Next slide. There's also a 2-minute video, which is optional for providing additional information about the game. And there's supplementary information where you can maybe list some game rules. It's up to 4 pages. So you're not doing a full manual. Please don't write a full manual in there. It's not like just use the smallest print. Also, games are better when the manual is shorter. Fun fact, I'll tell you that one. Go through your design process, scoring breakdowns. Next week on First Canada Live, I'm really excited for this show. I'm gonna, I don't like to do this sometimes, but like, I'm gonna give a whole segment on how to design a game. For those of you who don't know, I used to design robot games for a living, and I designed games that have been played up close to 1 million people now. It's been all over, and how to design a game. We're going to go through all this good stuff, and it's a really, really fun, exciting process. But the cool thing with the game design challenge is you can do as much or as little as you want to do, and it can appeal to everyone. You can get into super detailed mathematical scoring analysis if you want, if that's what the students in your team are interested in. Or you could focus on the imagery of your field and making sure your field looks as awesome and as marketable as possible, if that's what your team is into. You get to pick what you focus on with the supplementary information. So there's something for everyone. There's an interview, it's going to be like a chairman's interview. And next slide. And there are some specific considerations that you need to follow. I don't want to spend too much time on this right now. Take a look at the manual. We will dive fully into this next week on First Canada Live in the How to Design a Game segment. So for our panelists, and there's a lot of cool awards, designer awards, concept awards, imagery award, like I said, creativity, engineering design. These are some of the awards that you're used to for the robots, but they're going to be applied to the game challenge. So I'd love everyone's impressions, and really, I'd love your impression first on what do you think of the game design challenge?
I'm really interested in it. Unfortunately, this year my team isn't participating, but I'm excited to see. Hopefully, will these interviews be broadcasted live so people can watch them?
I don't think so, really, because I think the judges' interviews are typically a private thing, but I'm sure lots of teams are going to be sharing their games on social media and on
Awesome.
on Chief Delphi and posting videos to Instagram and stuff. And maybe what we could do is for our Canadian teams, if there's teams who are interested, like after the deadline, obviously, we could probably show some stuff on First Canada Live, where we could bring whichever Canadian teams do the best in the world, we can definitely invite them to come on the show to showcase their games here. I think that'd be awesome. I think really you just became a co-producer of the show, I think.
I have another question for the mentors. And this year, we talked about in the beginning that it's really weird and different from the past seasons. Do you have any advice for rookie teams who are just starting?
Yeah, one of the things that Karthik mentioned and that you mentioned earlier in the show, really, is the new First Canada support Slack. Asking for help is normal. It's okay. There are teams who are veterans who are going to be there to support you and help rookie teams, even newer members on existing teams. A lot of times you may have say 5 or 6 grade 12s from the previous year graduate, you technically lost a lot of knowledge from the team. Asking for help from either those alumni or from other teams, totally okay. And always ask.
Absolutely. Great advice right there. Before we move on to the next challenge, Barbara, what are your thoughts on the game design challenge? Because I think you come from a different perspective here, being heavily involved on the chairman's side. And I think some people are like, oh, game design, that's going to be like robot. First of all, I hate this delineation, chairman's kids, robot kids, or whatever. But what are you excited about?
I am very excited, simply because to me, you can't do this with only one half of the team. Both half of the teams have to be involved, because that way you get the biggest variety of like ideas. Like a robot kids will potentially be chanting water game, water game, water game, create a water game, whereas your chairman's kids could be saying create something like Quidditch, like create a robot version of Quidditch. Like you'll get so many more ideas by including everybody. Plus, it's a great way for knowledge transfer between the two. So sorry.
No, you hit on it right there. Diversity, equity,
Yeah.
diversity, and inclusion is such a huge pillar at first, and you can't come up with creative solutions or creative ideas without a diverse group. When I did game design, I had a committee of people that I worked with on it, and we specifically had people from our marketing department in it. We made sure we had interns on the game design committee. We had teachers who were working in the field. We had, hardcore mechanical engineers. We'd bring in our toy designers sometimes. Just this huge combination of people to get like these really, really cool things.
And also, if you looked at Kickoff and you watched Kickoff, they had the people who were introducing this design challenge. It was someone who was a marketing background and someone who did have that engineering background. So even at first, they had that diversity of people trying to make messages.
And one of the people they had on there, her story is really cool. Kelly used to be a designer for Disney. So she helped design the Disney's new NBA exhibit and whatever. So like that kind of skill set is what goes into this. So it's really, really cool. We're going to talk lots about game design next week. Tune in if you want to learn anything about designing a game. If you're curious about how past games have been designed in terms of, well, not necessarily first ones, but ones that I've worked on, all the secrets, anything you want is going to be given out on that show. It's going to be really, really, really cool. Okay. Last one, the innovation challenge here. And we might not have as much discussion here, but I want to touch on the important things. So here, Lego kids have been doing this for a while. Identify and attempt to solve a real world problem related to the first Game Changers theme. And you want to find a problem and you got to solve it. It's simple as that. It's not simple, but it is. Top 20 teams move on to the first Global Innovation Awards, which is this cool, amazing ceremony that normally happens in Washington, D.C. This year is most likely going to be virtual. Next slide. You got to do a lot of stuff. Brainstorm, design a problem, create a business model, show the soundness of design, develop and pitch the innovation, use technology in the solution development. You're basically coming up with your own startup right here to solve a major problem. But again, the deliverables aren't that tough. Before March 4th, you only have to basically have like a basic sketch of what's going on. And then there'll be a big interview. And the interview is, there's a semifinalist stage. We're going to skip past the semifinalist stage because I don't think we need to focus on that right now. But the judges are looking for what you defined, the business model, the innovation impact, and how functional this all is. And so I want to, and 15-minute presentation. So I want to talk to our panelists here. I want to go around the room. Does anyone want to give just like an idea to help people? Because a lot of people out there are asking, I have no idea what I would do for the innovation challenge. So does each of you have an idea that you would want to share, that you can share, that your team's not already using? Anyone?
I don't have an idea, but I was reading the manual, and somewhere along my research, I found there was an FLL team that created the LED like lights that create the like lines on a community field. And so you can literally just change the LED pattern and go from a soccer field to a football field to a basketball arena. Like that was pretty cool. Like something simple, but like also very practical. So like I don't have an idea. It's not something I've thought about very much, to be honest, but that's pretty neat.
I'll say this: we are running short on time, but in 2 weeks we've got an innovation challenge show. We're going to have from the eBots Hydrators, who won this award, world championship, top award in the world as Lego League students way back in the day. I think I see Kaushal nodding his head, probably saw them when he was repping FLL back then. And they'll be on discussing this. But I do want to say one thing. Looking at where we are in the world today, the past 10 months have taught me one thing, is that first is more important than ever has been, because we need creative problem solvers, and we need people who have STEM skills who can translate them into solutions for all sorts of problems. And that's really important. That's the innovation challenge is going to help you hone those skills. And I really want people, when they're working on this, to not just focus on, here's a problem we can solve so we can make lots of money. But here's a problem that we can solve to make the world a better place. And what can we do to make things, and not just a better place for some people, focus on ED&I as you're doing this, making sure your solution is usable for everyone, that it's actually accessible. We think about what happens in this world now. It's like this new tech company, and it's like disrupting this, but they forget about certain communities, or they only think about people who look like them. We can do better than that. So that's kind of a challenge out there, how you can involve ED&I principles in your innovation challenge. Panelists, you were awesome. This was a great segment. There's so much going on. I think the cool thing is there's so much going on. So any final words from anyone about all of this?
Stay safe, please.
Also get creative. This is the perfect time to go crazy with ideas as much as you can and then just settle in as one. But please get creative. Again, Quidditch. Just putting that out there. Someone just Quidditch, please.
Awesome.
And hope to see everyone soon. First is awesome, and we're going to keep at it, whether virtual or in person.
Thanks so much to our panelists. We are going to be back talking FTC in just a minute. But before we do that, let's take a look at a word from one of our sponsors. All right, we're back. That was a lot of FRC. That was a lot of good stuff. Rudy, what did you think of all that?
I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know how to feel. I feel really excited. I'm excited to see how teams come through and pull together on these different initiatives and challenges. I'm excited to see all the social media posts about the game design. I think that's like something that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun season. Like you said, start off the show, it's gonna be different, but there's a lot of fun stuff. And hey, FRC teams out there, if you're watching this tonight and you're like, oh, we didn't register, can we still do it? It's not too late to register. Contact John Hobbins or Swaggy P, Paul Keenan, and they'll make things happen. So let's do this. But hey, first is more than FRC, and FTC season is fully underway. They had their kickoff in September, which was an awesome event. And to talk about the FTC season, who better to bring on the show other than the Vice President of Programs for First Canada, Dave Ellis. How's it going, Dave?
Good, Karthik. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So, Riddy, you go to school in Scarborough. Are you in Scarborough right now?
Yep.
We got three Scarborough people on right now, so we're
Nice.
repping the east side here. This is really nice. No one else is allowed on the show. It's just us. We're just going to talk
Perfect.
real world here. But Dave, thank you for being on the show. Always glad to have you on. And so what's going on in the world of FTC right now? Where are they at their season?
Well, depends, I guess, when they started with us. But as you said, we had kickoff in September. People have been joining us from, prior to kickoff right through to a few weeks ago, actually. So, and it's still not too late, as you said, with FRC. We're still accepting registrations for FRC, still accepting registrations for FTC as well. So, so it depends when they joined us, but most teams at this point have robots built, and they're pushing towards the scrimmages that we have coming up. We did have one back in December, which was actually pretty impressive for the time frame of the season for them. But we're looking forward to this coming scrimmage, which is next week, and it's going to be pretty exciting. 2 scrimmages coming up, one in January, one in February, and then we've got official qualifiers in March and April, with the provincials in May probably.
Yeah, exciting stuff. And, I've been really kind of geeking out every time I see an FTC robot video. You see some of this cool stuff out there from teams across the world, and including our teams here in Ontario. So it's been really cool. Rudy, have you been involved with FTC before?
I have not.
All right, well, we're going to learn all the good stuff that's happening in the FTC world. And I think we're going to start off. We got two teams, both from the same school. We got team 16413 Edit Robotics and 16415 Low Ellen Nerdy Knights, both all the way from Sudbury. So we've got Tyler, Edward, Tiago, and Kush on the show. Hey, everyone. So I see Tyler, I see Edward, Kush, Tiago. There we go. They all light up. It's great. So, Edit Robotics, Low Ellen Nerdy Knights, why don't you take it away and tell us what you've come up with this season? Because everyone's excited to see some robots.
Yeah, hi. We've had a really productive season so far, and it's been really great that we're actually able to meet in person. I know we have a slideshow with a couple of videos. Not sure if it's able to come up or not. Yeah. And so if you go to the next slide, there's there's a couple of us who are presenting here. So I'm Tyler here with Edward, Tiago, and Kush. Now on the next slide, we have just a video with an overview of our edit lab at the school where we have our robotics program take place. And while that's playing, I can give kind of just an overview. There's just background music that, you can play or not play, doesn't really matter.
I like it. I dig it. Let's take it. Let's keep going.
This is our edit lab. We have, we're really lucky in our school to have our robotics program really integrated with the curriculum. And we have numerous different classes that go on, including an FTC class that we actually have at our school. And myself, along with Edward, Tiago, and Kush, we're all in this FTC class, which is really great to allow us to actually meet during the pandemic. I know a lot of teams have some difficulty during the class, but we're able to regularly, and it's allowed for some great collaboration as well. I know there's numerous different, there's actually 4 different robots being built in this class, and we're all able to collaborate and share ideas together. We also have 3 robots being built outside this class, and eventually 7 robots that are being built are going to be for 3 different spots to represent our school, with teams 16413, 16415, and 18990. And this program is kind of our feeder for an FRC program with team 4069. And so we're going to have Tiago talking about some design in CAD. I'm going to be talking about some autonomous automation stuff. Edward's going to be talking about the shooter and intake, and Kush will be outlining the wobble goal mechanism.
All right, let's dive into it. Before you do that, Tyler, that robot, that looks amazing. That looks like an FRC robot that you just kind of hit the shrink button on and shrunk it down to FTC size for everything from the intake style to using the Coulson wheels for the shooter. Oh, it looks so good. All right, I want to hear more about it.
This is the Cadava robot. Our robot consists of 4 main mechanisms: the deployable wobble goal grabber, the shooter, the deployable intake, and the mechanism drive kit. The deployable wobble goal grabber uses 2 servos for articulation with a 36 to 26 gear reduction. It uses 4-inch flex wheels to intake and release the wobble goal. The shooter has 1 spinning wheel and 1 fixed wheel acting as a pinch point. The spinning wheel is powered by 2 DC motors. The deployable intake deploys from our robot, allowing us to be within the 18-inch restriction. This also allows us to hold up to 3 rings at a time. The final main mechanism on our robot is our Rev Mechanism Drive Train kit.
Yeah, we can go to the next slide now. So programmers recently have been working mostly on autonomous and getting our shooter up and running. So if you want to show the video, this is just kind of sort of where we're at right now. So as you can see in the video, we use the built-in starter stack detector, like that's in the example code in the FTC SDK, and that's what we base our starter stack detector off of. We use a gyroscope as well as some odometry wheels in order to accurately position the robot using push controllers. And we have a whole command-based auto structure that affect water routines. Obviously, as you can see, it's not perfect, but
pretty good.
So, yeah, we're hoping to have it up and running and have delivering to the target zones with the wobble goal once we have wobble goal mechanism finalized. Yeah, you can flip to the next slide.
6 rings and autonomous is amazing.
Yeah,
I love the drop down intake.
Yeah.
We also have a couple automated actions as well, and that's something else we've been working on. The first scrimmage gave us a great opportunity to see kind of what drive teleop improvements needed to be made. So you can see in the video that the robot is able to automatically turn to either a 90-degree angle or 270-degree angle, each of the 4 coordinate points just by pressing a button. We automatically index to make sure that no rings get jammed in the shooter using a color sensor, and we're also the rings automatically fire once the shooter's up to speed. And to talk more about the shooter, Edward will be talking about that a little bit more in the next slide.
Yeah, so intake ring design shooter. So for our mechanism overview, we have a drop-down intake to, like Thiago mentioned, to reach inside the 18-inch starting size requirement. In the video, you don't need volume because the shooter's really loud, but in the video, you could see that we could store 3 rings using the HDD timing belt as a conveyor into the shooter. Our shooter uses 2 4-inch inertial wheels powered by 2 mechanically linked Rev HD motors at a 1-to-1 gear ratio. And we use an RPM PID controller to maintain consistent velocity for the shooter. Kush will be talking about the wobble goal on the next slide.
Hey, to all our FRC viewers there who have done infinite recharge, you recognize those PID graphs exactly, because that's exactly the same stuff that's being done. FTC, it's the same skill sets, but it's a manageable size to work on these robots. This is amazing. Okay, sorry, Kush.
Yeah, no problem. So here we have the wobble goal design. This mechanism here is a deployable wobble goal grabber, and the video here shows a prototype of how the mechanism is going to work. Like Thiago mentioned before, it consists of 2 servos for articulation with additional 36 to 26 gear reduction. There are 2 continuous rotation servos used to drive the 4-inch flex wheels intake. And the wobble goal sides are made from CNC'd 1/4-inch flex hand plates and 3D printed parts. It is held up by the 2 aluminum extrusions in the front of the robot. And the final design is being assembled this week, so we can participate in the scrimmage with a fully working wobble goal. And thank you for having us at First Canada, and feel free to ask any questions.
I have to say that robot is just so cool. And so, Riddy, you're new to FTC. What did you think?
I thought that was really cool. I just loved it. It was really similar to the robot that we built, I believe, in 2019 for our deep space. So I like how you guys use the Coulson wheels as an intake. So yeah, our team did the similar thing. So I loved seeing that similarity.
Yeah, I think that a lot of our community doesn't realize the parallels between these programs and the good stuff. But clearly, you've put a lot of work into this, and it looks really, really impressive. So I'm excited to see how things go with the scrimmage for you, and then when we get into the qualifying events. So, is there anything else you'd like to tell us that you're excited about with this robot, or hopes for the rest of the season?
We're really excited to be able to compete in the scrimmages leading up to the qualifying matches, and obviously, so we have 7 robots being built in our school, and that allows for us to have a lot of competition within our school, and obviously, we have a bigger program, and it allows everyone kind of fuels each other to work really hard, and and we're just really excited that we actually get to compete this year.
That's right. You have 7 robots because you have one of those FTC class packs, right?
Yeah, so we actually have a classroom running with an Ontario curriculum course code, and so with that we're able to build 4 of the robots in the classroom.
That's really, really neat. I just imagine that being your class, build robots that do cool stuff to compete. That's just absolutely amazing. Thank you, 16413, 16415, Lowell, and our friends from Sudbury. Enjoy the rest of your season. Good luck at your events. But now we're going to bring on our next team, and it is team 16397, Relatively Quantum. I believe they're all from Brampton. We've got Armand, Muskan, Muaz, and Ahmad.
Hi, Karthik.
Hey, how are you doing, Armand?
Not bad. Yourself?
Good. Glad to have you back on the show. We met you at FTC Kickoff this year, where you taught a lot of people about programming, and now you're going to tell us about what Relatively Quantum is up to.
Absolutely. So first, just a quick rundown about our team itself. We're Brampton's first FTC team, and we're a community-based team with 6 members in total. 4 members are here today to present the robot to you, but 2 could not come due to circumstances relating to COVID, unfortunately. I do believe we have a quick video lined up for tonight, and it'll be lovely if you could play that video right now.
Very cool, relatively quantum. All right, tell us more about this robot.
For sure. So you got a little bit of a sneak peek about it, but now I really want to go into like the nitty-gritty mechanical systems and really explain it. So we'll start from the bottom. We have a 5-motor drive with 5 corresponding omni wheels and 1 wheel in the center that allows us to strafe the robot across the field for increased maneuverability and when lining up with the wobble goals and power shots. Then moving on to our intake, it's an intake based on chain and flaps. Let me tilt that up so you can see it maybe a little bit better. Yeah, chain and flaps over here. And when that spins, that's able to scoop up the rings. And those rings get scooped up and they go ahead and they fall into our gravity-fed magazine, where at the bottom of it, there's a little servo that's gonna nudge the lowest ring into the shooter wheel, which is up here. And when that's spinning, that's gonna propel the ring out of the robot and hopefully into one of the goals or the power shot. And then additionally, we also have a motor, so rather our arm, connected to a motor directly. It's a 60-to-1 tornado motor from Petrix, direct connection, as well as at the end of that motor, we have a sort of latch mechanism that's able to pick up the wobble goal and hold it in place securely. So on the wobble goal, so this would be at the back of the robot like this. A wobble goal would come in. Then, so just so you can see better, the latch closes over here, and then the wobble goal can't get out. And we can keep it over here, drive until we're ready to put it back, either in the drop zone or the correct square in autonomous. So those are the mechanical features of the robot. And I'll hand it over to my other teammates so they can talk a little bit more about the programming side of it.
So as you can see here, the arm doesn't have the right gear ratio for it to be held up at the right positions at all times. So what we've done to combat this is we use motor encoders and code to make sure we can hold it in the right place whenever we want using closed loop PID systems. Additionally, our shooter also uses motor encoders, but not to hold it in position, but rather to maintain a certain rotational velocity.
We also have a camera sensor over here at the back of the robot, and this senses how many rings are stacked up on top of each other. This is helpful during autonomous to position our wobble goal when we're putting it down in the specific square, depending on the rings.
In terms of outreach, it's been hard this year, but with the help of FRC, we reached out to the Ernest Clough Senior Public School and have got them to start their own robotics club based on FTC. And hopefully it will become an FTC team in the future. Additionally, our team captain Armand has mentored the team Robotics.
So that was a quick rundown of our season. And we have so much more to do, and we're so excited for the rest of the season to come. But yeah, we'd just like to know if you have any questions or want to see anything more in detail about the robot.
First of all, I love how you've figured out a way to to work effectively through COVID and socially distance there, even in your presentation, keeping the proper distance and whatever. That's true role model behavior that we love to see from our first teams, but I don't know, Riddy or Dave, do you have any questions for them?
I really liked how you mentioned the autonomous for the camera, using the camera to see the rings. And you know, the lights are obviously beautiful, but
Swaggy P really likes your LEDs.
So
yeah. Riddy?
I really like the LEDs too. I was wondering if you could explain more about the propellers.
So the intake?
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm trying to get a better angle for you. So the intake, I can bring it up closer to the camera there. They have flaps continuously going around the chain, and those flaps allow, so when it goes down for on the ground, when it's flat like this, it's gonna allow for one of the rings to get scooped up. So I can try and give you a demonstration over here with one of the rings really quickly. We don't have a lot of space on the table, so it's a bit tricky, but we'll figure it out. So when this spins, it's gonna go ahead and it's gonna scoop up a ring like that. And then that ring is gonna continue and it's gonna fall, hopefully not off the robot. But that's what happens when you tilt it 90 degrees. But instead it's gonna fall into this gravity-fed magazine over here. And that's where the 3 rings stack up. And then eventually from the servo, they get pushed in to the shooter and then they come out at the end.
Awesome.
Hey, Dave, do you have a final question for the team?
Yeah, I'm curious, Armand, about the choice in wheels. Mecanum, you didn't go with Mecanum, but you went with the middle wheel underneath to Strive.
Right, so actually, at the beginning of the season, we did have Mecanums on our robot. But what we found is that due to the uneven weight distribution, our center of gravity was not in the center of the robot. So what that caused is when we tried strafing, it would tilt on an angle as well. With Mecanums, because Mecanums require you to have your center of gravity in the center of your robot. But since we have a lot of weight on the back, that wasn't working. So we decided to switch to Omni wheels with the center wheel. And that really improved our strafing. Although it was a lot slower, it was at least straight. So we could maintain our accuracy and autonomy.
Makes a lot of sense. That's a really smart trade-off that you make. That everything about the engineering design process is trade-offs there, but you traded off some speed for some accuracy, which is really a smart decision. And we'll see it play out in the scrimmages and the events. Thank you to Armand, Muskan, Muaz, and Ahmad. That's super great robot. Love seeing Relatively Quantum, and can't wait to see what you come up with at the scrimmages. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
everyone.
Great job with the outreach too, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Still managed to do outreach in the midst of all of this. Really, really special. Okay, next up, we have team 16417, Dr. X Academy. We got Bo Wei, Jennifer Zhu as coaches, Brandon, Jeffrey, Zachary, and we got Hamza here as well. Good to see everyone. Hey, Dr. X.
Good to see you.
All right, let's hear about this robot.
All right, so perhaps Brandon, you want to start?
Okay, so typically when we come in, we would look at the progress of other groups that come in on the other days. For example, if we come in on a Saturday, we would check the engineering notebook from the previous Sunday of other people. And when we come in, the mentor would normally give us some pointers on what to do. And we would split into groups of 2 to work on different mechanisms and some coding. And when we were designing, we found that splitting the mechanism design was faster than if we just all worked on one. And we also designed some of the mechanisms personally, and we all put it together.
Thank you. So yeah, Jeffrey.
A little more on the robot. Our robot consists of a few main parts. We have an intake, which is basically right now some rubber bands attached to a metal rod, which isn't really good. And we're planning to innovate more on that by adding some intake rubber wheels. And that might be on a sprung mount. We'll have to see. And after that, our next main part is kind of a spiral disc transporter, which when the discs come in from the intake, the transporter thing will spin it around and rise it higher in elevation. This is important because otherwise, if we have a regular transporter, we would have to turn our 180 degrees and then shoot. And then we have to turn 180 degrees again to grab another ring. And with the spiral transporter, it'd be a lot easier on our drivers to drive the robot properly. And we are using a Mecanum drivetrain, and we found out this is the best drivetrain in our case because it has great movement, and if you can control it very well, it can be very efficient. And on the flywheel part, we have a wheel spinning, and it compresses the ring a bit so we can shoot it out and into one of the 3 goals.
All right. But hey, before we get to Zachary, I know you have a 2-minute video that we want to make sure we can take a look at that. So let's take a look at that video right now. All right, very, very cool, Dr. X. So who wants to finish this off from the team?
All right, so you've just seen a lot about like the actual, how the robot works. I'm gonna talk a bit about the coding, so like what's on the inside. Right now we're using a PID for like the kind of the speed of a flywheel, just so we can maintain consistency and like when the robot's making those shots on those on like the higher targets, right? We also have encoders just scattered throughout the code just to determine the position of the robot. So especially in autonomous mode, right? It knows like, all right, it's in this location. It can switch between like various parts or various stages of the autonomous mode to like score more points. And right now we're using cameras to sense the rings, to actually like pick them up, know when to like start the intake and stuff like that. We're actually having a bit of issues with like the camera right now just because it's not the most reliable. Mainly because it's in like a weird position where it doesn't fully pick up the ring. But we are working on that, and that should be fine pretty soon.
Well, I think it's also to remember, Zachary, is that robots is hard, and you're going to have problems with this stuff, but you have a lot of time to continually work on it. There's multiple scrimmages, multiple qualifying events, and so what may be a struggle right now, we might be hearing from you in April is this is a problem that's been solved, and it's really actually cool to struggle early. So. I'm really big fan of that robot. The video, really, really well done, really smooth. Dr. X, y'all keep coming up with great robots across all the programs. So that's really exciting to see. So thank you all for being here. And thank you, Dave, for coming on with the FTC teams. And this has been a really good show tonight. Sure. So thanks, everyone. Riddy, what did you think? First time co-hosting?
It was a blast. I had a fun time.
Yeah, and I can't wait to have you back on here again. I think it was really cool just to see robots, talk about all the good stuff, the excitement of kickoff. But for everyone out there, we understand things are complicated right now, and I'm sure a lot of people are a little bit disheartened by the news today about the more restrictive lockdown and the such. But I think we've got to remember, what do you always used to say in the first community? We're role models for each other, and we're always there to take care of each other. And I think we need to show that sense of gracious professionalism to the whole world right now, where we're going to stay home to protect those who can't, because there's so many people, our essential workers, the people who are at the grocery stores, cleaning up hospitals, all that sort of stuff who have to be out there. So we just need to do our best to protect them. And that's what firsters do. Because when you go to a first event, if there's a team in need, you see everyone rushing to their pit to try and help them out. And we're going to take that spirit, and hopefully people learn from us. I was so impressed watching Relatively Quantum's presentation, how they were taking the proper distancing protocols and showing you can make this work with a little bit of effort. And I'm just really, really proud of our community and excited for this. So thanks to everyone who was on the show. Really, you're an awesome co-host. Thanks to all our guests. Next week, it's a really fun one because we're going to have a discussion with McMaster University, who's a great first sponsor. They host the FRC event and they give away a lot of scholarships. So we'll be talking about that good stuff. The return of the Kahoot Challenge. Brennan Bibik's going to be going up against Parth Suthar, which will be very, very exciting. And you want to learn how to design a robot game because you're getting ready for the Game Design Challenge, or you're just into game design, stay tuned for How to Design a Competitive Robot Game by me, Karthik. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Everyone stay safe out there. Thanks to the moderators in chat. You were busy today, so thank you for everything that you did. And of course, to all our producers working behind the scenes. Everyone, it's been a fun show. Welcome back to First Canada Live. Enjoy your FRC season. Enjoy your FTC season. Enjoy your FLL Challenge Discover Explore season. Enjoy everything right now, and we will see you next week. Good night, everyone.